In the 4th year of pursuing Ethan, he grew utterly weary of me. Merely for accidentally shattering his beloved's pearl earring, he cast me away to a foreign land for 3 years. 3 years later, I was finally brought back home. Everyone assumed I would persist in entangling him, including Ethan himself. He gazed at me coldly, his eyes brimming with wariness. "Luna, Sabrina and I are getting engaged, you'd better stay far away from us. If you dare entangle us again, I won't hesitate to teach you another lesson." I nodded obediently and dutifully returned the heirloom his grandmother had given me years ago. Then, I silently counted down the days until my marriage. He was unaware that, to return home and escape that hellish place, I had agreed to my father's condition of marrying the Pei family's comatose son in my sister's stead for good luck. From now on, I would never entangle him again. Yet on my wedding day, this ever-composed heir of the Hua family disregarded his status and chased after me, trembling all over. "Luna, how could you abandon me?" On the day I returned home, scarred all over, I was whisked away by my father's assistant right after disembarking to apologize to Ethan. Along the way, the assistant relentlessly relayed my father's admonitions. "Miss, this time upon your return, you must not entangle Ethan anymore. Moreover, do not lose your temper and vie jealously with Miss Sabrina again. Having endured such hardships abroad for years, you should now understand this young master's methods. He is beyond your reach." I awkwardly clutched the item in my pocket and stammered, "No. I won't." In truth, they were overthinking it. Over these years, I had long since learned my lesson. Because of Sabrina's single tear, Ethan had cast me abroad. In that war-torn zone, I was deceived, trafficked, and abused, nearly beaten to death repeatedly for failing to pay protection fees. Fearing Ethan, my father dared not send me a single penny. Those people, seeing no further value to extract from me, even forcibly removed one of my kidneys while I was alive. That day, I lay in a filthy, rudimentary operating room, screaming through the entire night. It was also that day I completely severed my longing for Ethan and fully comprehended his favoritism toward Sabrina, as well as the vast chasm between us. How could I dare harbor thoughts of him again? How could I dare compete with his beloved Sabrina? Upon arriving at the Hua Corporation's presidential office, Ethan was in a meeting. The secretary glanced at me ambiguously and instructed us to wait outside, noting it might take a while. My father's assistant immediately bowed obsequiously, assuring it was no issue and we could wait as long as needed. The Hua building maintained a spring-like warmth year-round. Yet, inexplicably, the air conditioning in the reception area was broken today. In November's northern city, the cold was already bone-chilling. Having boarded the plane as if fleeing a disaster, I wore only a thin garment. The tea served after a long wait was also cold. I huddled in my seat, my body chilled through. The frostbite on my hands and feet began to redden and itch. In fact, I used to be unafraid of the cold. In the depths of winter, to let the severely cold-stricken Ethan drink warm water, I would tuck an icy mineral water bottle into my bosom to warm it for him. Upon seeing my action, Ethan disapprovingly said, "Luna, a girl needn't do such things." I blinked and replied, "A girl needn't, indeed. But I simply wanted him to drink warm water, so he wouldn't suffer as much." Back then, I was so fervent, my body and heart were both warm. Unlike now, after 3 years in foreign slums, not only had my body been ruined, but every winter, my hands and feet were covered in frostbite. Inhaling cold air would trigger a cough lasting half a month. My heart, moreover, had aged like that of an 80-year-old, no longer capable of fervor. Perhaps from excessive freezing, I seemed to be developing a fever. This battered body was now utterly useless. Fortunately, before I succumbed to discomfort and fainted, Ethan finally deigned to see me. As I pushed open Ethan's presidential office door, voices were inside. It was the secretary who had received us, defiantly telling Ethan, "Ethan, I deliberately turned off their air conditioning and delayed notifying you until now. I just wanted to vent for Special Assistant Sabrina. Why should her bullying be wiped clean after 3 years abroad? If you pity her, feel free to fire me to appease her." "Ethan, don't, Jenny did it for me, could you not blame her?" It was Sabrina pleading. Ethan chuckled lightly. Appease her? Ha, as if she deserves it. I only regret not punishing her harshly enough, allowing her to return like this. My heart felt punched, aching so much I wanted to double over. A bitter smile tugged at my lips, so all my suffering, in Ethan's eyes, was still insufficiently harsh. Perhaps this was punishment for my former overreach, daring to approach him without knowing my place. After uttering those words, Ethan turned and saw me, his pupils contracting sharply in disbelief. Yes, I had changed immensely. 3 years ago, the radiant, fervent, and fearless eldest daughter of the Sioux family, now, I was frail, haggard, weathered, like a ghost escaped from hell. The stagnant atmosphere was quickly broken by Sabrina. Covering her dainty mouth, she suppressed, "Luna, how did you let yourself become like this? Even to make Ethan pity you, there's no need to perform such an extreme ruse of self-injury." Sabrina remained as artful as before. But this time I did not get provoked as in the past, leading to arguments and Ethan's punishing disdain. I merely looked at Ethan and smiled faintly. "Ethan, believe it or not, I'm not feigning injury." Ethan raised his brow slightly, seeming indifferent yet enraged. "I hope it's not a ruse. I sent you away precisely to punish you. Luna, these 3 years abroad should have taught you the cost of continuing to entangle me and harm Sabrina. Stop entangling me, or I won't mind giving you another lesson." My eyes stung with acidity, yet not a tear fell. "Ethan, it won't happen again." "I dare not." I retrieved the item hidden in my pocket and solemnly said, "It won't, Ethan, I swear. If I dare entangle you again, may I, Luna, die without a burial place." With that, I extended the item. "This is returned to you." It was an exquisitely translucent emerald bracelet, given to me by Ethan's grandmother when she was alive, a token symbolizing the family's daughter-in-law. Back then, I presumptuously accepted it, but I knew its true owner should never have been me. Yet Ethan did not take it, he stared coldly, lips pursed tightly. He seemed angrier, but I didn't know what provoked him. After a moment's hesitation, I placed the bracelet in Sabrina's hand. Having accidentally shattered her necklace before, returning a bracelet now could be considered evening the score. "Miss, your hand." The assistant following me exclaimed. Ethan's gaze shifted to my hand. If appearances could be disguised, how could these hands be? My hands were densely covered in wounds and frostbite. Some fingernails had even been pulled out and hadn't regrown. These hands were truly unsightly. I hastily tucked my hands back into my pockets. Then, facing Ethan's stern visage, I smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry, Ethan, my entanglements over the past years troubled you. It was my youthful ignorance that discomforted you. It truly won't happen again. Father said that today, I must apologize properly to Ethan and avoid provoking him at all costs." The former me despised listening to him, but now, I had learned obedience. To convey my sincerity to Ethan, after speaking, I bowed deeply 3 times to him. Then to Sabrina, she was the apple of Ethan's eye, so naturally, I had to apologize properly to her as well. "Sabrina, I'm sorry. I was too impulsive then, shattering your mother's heirloom. Now, I'm compensating you with this bracelet, I hope you can forgive me." In truth, I hadn't shattered it, but the facts no longer mattered. I bowed deeply 3 times to her as well. "Rest assured, I guarantee I won't appear near you and Ethan again. Truly, never again." With that, I turned and left without lingering. But after a few steps, a deafening crash echoed behind me, as if something shattered. However, it should be unrelated to me. I had done as Ethan wished, he shouldn't be angry with me anymore. Perhaps truly chilled, I developed a fever upon returning home. When I groggily awoke again, 3 days had passed. My half-sister Pearl stood by my bed. Seeing me open my eyes, she said disappointedly, "Sluts are tenacious, I really thought you were dying. Didn't expect you to survive again." In the past, such words would provoke me to strike her. But now, I merely lay there dazed. The past 3 years seemed to have drained all my arrogance and vitality. Pearl glanced at me amusedly, then smugly touched the diamond necklace on her neck. I recognized it as my mother's heirloom, the last thing she left me. Once, I guarded them like a fierce lioness, preventing Pearl and her mother from approaching. Ethan backed me then, so they never dared touch them. But now, I couldn't protect them, or even myself. Mother, I'm truly useless. Seeing my pained expression, Pearl laughed even more gleefully. So what Sabrina said is true, you've become as obedient as a dog now. Luna, you're as foolish as your dead mother. Back then, she couldn't compete with mine. You were so competitive before, always comparing and suppressing me, claiming you'd marry the most powerful Ethan in the northern city to make our family proud. But now, not only can't you marry Ethan, you're marrying the Pei family's comatose man in my place. I hear he's been in a coma for nearly 3 years. Tell me, if you, this jinx, marry him and he accidentally dies from your good luck, won't their whole family kill you? I hear the Pei family in the southern city is even more terrifying than the Fu family. Luna, good luck to you. Father says you'll be married off in half a month. Ha ha ha, Luna, you're truly useless. Lying in bed, I could no longer hold back tears. Yes, I was truly useless. But perhaps it was for the best. Marrying a comatose man was preferable to staying here, where fear suffocated me. My body took a week to recover. Father said, since I had offended Ethan, my marriage would be kept low-key. He instructed me to stay home peacefully and prepare for marriage, without going out. I knew he feared another mishap provoking Ethan's displeasure. I was willing, now, I disliked crowds and preferred not to go out. Yet unexpectedly, even staying indoors, I encountered Ethan again. That day was Pearl's birthday party. As Father's true apple of his eye, she invited nearly the entire northern city's elite to her birthdays. This time was no exception, nearly everyone in the circle attended, even Ethan, who rarely joined such events. The courtyard buzzed with activity. I stayed in a corner as backdrop. Knowing I had offended Ethan, everyone tacitly avoided speaking to me. Only relatives from my mother's side came over for a few words. Ryan was my cousin. But since Mother's death, my uncle and aunt disliked Father, extending to me. Our relationship had gradually faded. Yet unexpectedly, he greeted me today. In the crowd, the impeccably suited Ethan stood out glaringly. Instinctively, I wanted to avoid him. Yet before leaving, I heard exclamations from the crowd. Sabrina accidentally collided with Ryan, who held a wine glass. Her brand-new couture gown was stained with unsightly red wine. Sabrina screamed and slapped Ryan, then threw herself into Ethan's arms. Ethan, this person tried to harm me. Just now by the pool, he not only deliberately splashed wine on me but also tried to push me into the pool. I barely escaped his grasp. Sob. Ryan's head spun. Be reasonable, Miss Sabrina. I was standing there drinking peacefully. You bumped into me yourself, okay? No need for such framing. Don't you know there are cameras everywhere now? Sabrina's face stiffened. As she was about to speak, Pearl approached. But Mr. Ryan, sorry. Our poolside surveillance broke some time ago and hasn't been fixed. But I trust Miss Sabrina's character, she surely wouldn't wrong you. Ryan finally realized the gravity. His face paled as he looked at Ethan in the crowd. The superior's aura made Ryan's legs weaken. Ethan, I was truly just standing there drinking. I didn't approach Miss Sabrina at all. Ethan smiled dangerously, his voice cold. So you're saying you did nothing, and our Sabrina is framing you? Ryan swallowed hard, then bowed his head in decision. I'm sorry, Ethan, it was my fault. I shouldn't have been careless. Miss Sabrina, please forgive me, it wasn't intentional. But Ethan did not spare him for his good attitude. He smiled faintly and asked Sabrina in his arms, which hand of his poured the wine on you? Sabrina pondered, the right hand. Cripple it. Soon, bodyguards approached and gripped Ryan's right hand. Realizing their intent, I couldn't bear it and shouted, no. Ethan's sharp gaze swept over me, numbing my body. Bracing myself, I said, I know there's a backup camera by the pool, it's not broken. The courtyard fell silent as a pin drop. I knew I shouldn't interfere, this cousin and I weren't close. But he had just seen my hand, mentioned working at the first hospital, and noted my right hand was somewhat deformed. He offered to help me with bone setting if I visited. How could I bear letting a fresh graduate lose his most vital right hand? Sabrina's body trembled. Pearl darkened her face. Sister, are you confused? Where's a backup camera in the courtyard? I pinched my palm. There really is, in the monitoring room. If you don't believe me, come see with me. I didn't know of a backup. I knew the home surveillance wasn't broken at all. I had experienced Sabrina and Pearl's tactics too many times in the past. Ethan stepped forward abruptly to me. Luna, you finally couldn't hide it? Ethan's words were as cold as he. You clearly said you'd no longer entangle me. What are you doing now? You sent your cousin to harm Sabrina, right? You venomous woman. He extended his snake-like cold hand, gripping my neck tightly, slowly tightening. In Ethan's eyes, I saw cold lethality. I shuddered involuntarily and desperately explained. No, Ethan, how could I dare? Sabrina is the apple of your eye. I'm hiding as best I can. How could I dare oppose her? But Ethan didn't believe me. You think I'd believe that? 3 years ago, you dared scheme against Sabrina behind my back. I don't believe you've changed. A slut remains a slut. A slut forever? But what had I done to become one? Merely for once fearlessly and passionately loving him? Suddenly, it all felt utterly pointless. Raising my head, I laughed neurotically. You're right, I harmed Sabrina. I deliberately instructed my cousin to kill your beloved, to push her into the water and drown her. Satisfied? Enough? Now, how will you avenge her? Kill me? No one around dared move. Tear-streaked, I looked at Ethan, awaiting his final punishment. Yet he suddenly smiled, released my neck, then disdainfully wiped his hand with paper. You'd better not have done it, Luna. Otherwise, I'll make you wish for death. Ethan left. Father was terrified half to death. You wretch, how dare you intervene? Who told you to? Luna, you're doomed. You'll doom our whole family. Who is Sabrina? She's the apple of Ethan's eye, his future wife, not to mention beating your cousin, even killing him. What of it? Did you need to intervene? He skipped the rest of the party, immediately returning to his study to call the Pei family, proposing to advance the wedding date and marry me off sooner. They readily agreed, saying the auspicious marriage should happen as quickly as possible, instructing me to fly over in 3 days. But who knew a mishap would still occur? That night in bed, I suddenly smelled a pungent odor. As I realized something, I blacked out. Upon awakening, I found myself bound in a pitch-black warehouse, surrounded by several burly men. Seeing me awake, a long whip lashed my body. They said nothing, just beat me. Lash after lash. Each strike whistled through the air, pain trembling my body. I desperately begged for help, but no one could save me. It was like reliving the 3-year foreign nightmare, helpless, nowhere to flee. Before fainting, I heard someone on the phone. Young master, as you instructed, we've disciplined Miss Luna for special assistant Sabrina. Good. She doesn't know who did it, right? The man glanced at me. No, Miss Luna has fainted. The voice relaxed. Good, now it's settled, Sabrina won't blame her. Release her. I was tossed back at the Sioux family door like a rag. Father saw my state and understood immediately. He called the Pei family again. He couldn't wait even 3 days, he wanted to send me, Luna, overnight now. The butler who watched me grow up couldn't help advising, Master, Mrs. Wounds are still bleeding, wait until she's better before sending her to the Pei family. If sent in such disarray, how will Miss fare in the Pei family later? How much will the Pei family look down on her? How can I care about that now? Father looked at me. Luna, don't blame me. Who told you to provoke anyone but the Hua family's ancestor? If you're ruined, so be it, but you can't ruin your sister too. From now on, be a good Pei daughter-in-law, whether you live or die, pretend you have no father. With that, he produced a severance agreement, took my finger, and pressed a print on it. A tear slid from my eye corner. This was fine too. I didn't want to acknowledge this coward who failed his wife and couldn't protect his daughter. Giving Luna a small lesson was Sabrina's last condition to Ethan. He arranged it. But inexplicably, that entire evening, his heart felt emptily uneasy, as if something was out of control. But fortunately, after today, his entanglements with Sabrina would end. Everyone said Sabrina was his future wife, the apple of his eye. But only he knew that in his lonely, obsessive first half of life, only one person entered his heart, Luna. She was like a little sun, illuminating him constantly. So good, so warm, so beautiful. But too noisy. He was accustomed to solitude, to steadiness. So 3 years ago, when Luna accidentally shattered Sabrina's necklace, her late mother's heirloom, Sabrina suggested using the opportunity to teach her a lesson, to temper her temperament. Ethan agreed. Luna was truly too noisy, too spoiled. She needed tempering, to learn obedience. Otherwise, how could she become the Hua family matriarch? But unexpectedly, upon return, she said she wanted to leave. How could that be? She had provoked him, she could only be his. As for Sabrina, 5 years ago, she unintentionally saved his mother. He promised her 3 requests. One was employment at Hua Corporation. Another, due to family reasons, was to pretend as her fiancé for 3 years. Then, today, binding Luna in a warehouse to vent for Sabrina, and incidentally teach her another lesson, to know a good woman shouldn't resort to underhanded tactics. Now, his agreements with Sabrina had expired. As compensation, he would reveal the truth to Luna, then formally propose to her family. This time, he hoped she had learned obedience. 3 days later, Ethan sent an invitation to the Sue family for a visit. He had given Luna a small lesson. Though Sabrina said it was just to scare her, who let her remain so stubborn after 3 years abroad, defying him publicly? Not obedient at all. But these 2 days, his heart was restless. At night, he dreamed of her crying, holding her scarred hands, saying, "Ethan, my hands really hurt. It's not a ruse." Upon waking, he panicked intensely. Lying in bed, unable to sleep further, he felt he must see her personally to ease. But upon sending the invitation, the Sue family was absent. Calling Charles, he learned the family was in Antarctica viewing penguins. Ethan pondered and asked, "When will you return?" Charles quavered, "Ethan, we're all on a cruise now, next docking might be in 3 days. Once docked, we'll buy tickets back immediately." Ethan suppressed his impatience and replied faintly, "Good." He intended to ask about Luna but thought, if they could travel, she should be fine. After hanging up, Pearl hurried over, "Dad, why is Ethan still seeking us? We've married Luna off, why won't he let us go?" Charles drew deeply on his cigarette. "I thought hiding in Antarctica would avoid Ethan's trouble. Didn't expect him to visit. No matter, if he troubles us, I'll show him the severance agreement. Let him go to the Pei family, it has nothing to do with us." The Sue family returned a week later. Despite rushing back, the journey from Antarctica took days. As soon as they arrived, Ethan, informed, came. These days, he had nightmares daily. He must see Luna immediately. But upon arriving at the Sue home, everyone greeted him in the living room, except Luna. Perhaps she was still angry with him. Ethan felt a surge of anger, the slight apology from disciplining her days ago vanished. He had intended to speak nicely and propose solemnly. But now, he suddenly didn't want to. Sabrina was right, Luna was arrogant and needed discipline. Last time's lesson was evidently too light, allowing her to still anger and defy him easily. Ethan frowned, "Where's Luna?" Charles's legs weakened. Indeed, it was her trouble. He smiled appeasingly, "Luna isn't here, does Ethan have business with her?" Ethan sneered coldly. "Have her come out." Charles's legs weakened further. But she can't come out." Ethan's aura chilled. "Can't come? Tell her, as long as she's not dead, roll out here." The Sue family exchanged glances. Charles broke into cold sweat. Pearl fumed, Luna this scourge, married to a comatose man yet still unrestful, provoking Ethan and ruining her trip. Thinking this, she couldn't help. Ethan, did that slut Luna provoke you and Miss Sabrina again? That slut Luna's death wouldn't be pity, but she's married, could you graciously spare our family? Charles nodded, yes, Ethan, to prevent her annoying you and Miss Sabrina, we've married that damned girl far to the south. Moreover, I've severed ties with Luna, see, this is our severance proof. Rest assured, you'll never see that annoying girl in the northern city again. Bang, Ethan's teacup shattered to pieces. Blood slid from his fingertips, but he felt no pain. He stared incredulously at the Sue family. When did I say I was annoyed by Luna? You say you married her off, how dare you marry her away? Charles's knees buckled, nearly kneeling. But if you don't dislike her, why cast her to Country X for 3 years without letting her return? Country X? Wasn't it Britain? He had sent her abroad for self-cultivation. When did he say to throw her into war-torn Country X? Pearl chimed in, yes, if you don't dislike her. Why that night did you have her beaten to a bloody pulp and thrown at our door, nearly lifeless? Wasn't it because she provoked Miss Sabrina, and you wanted to avenge your beloved? Something's wrong. Ethan clenched his injured hand tightly. Something was amiss. Those nightmares, Luna's scarred hands, all surged to mind instantly. For the first time, he felt such terror. He seemed to have truly committed countless unforgivable acts against his most beloved Luna. Why? Clearly, that wasn't his intent. Someone. Ethan's voice was gravely low. Investigate Luna's experiences over the past 3 years, and that night's events. Sabrina clearly said it was a small lesson, why did it become a bloody pulp? And where is Luna now? I must bring her back immediately. The subordinate glanced at his phone, then stammered, Ethan, it might be too late. Miss Luna is marrying right now. The Xie family's comatose man has awakened. In the southern city, I wore the most beautiful wedding gown, sitting in the city's largest 5-star hotel, awaiting my groom. Who could imagine that day? I nearly died. Ethan's small lesson triggered my body's severe injuries. If not for the Pei family's powerful medical team, I might never have awakened. In the hazy dream, I relived my foreign flight for life. Right after disembarking, my passport, ID, and money were robbed. Then I wandered various underground places. That was the darkest, most terrifying period of my life. On the day I was auctioned as merchandise, I saw a compatriot's face. Amid diverse appearances, he stood out handsomely. Instinctively, I begged him for help. He seemed short on money too, yet emptied his pockets to buy me. He said he'd take me home. And he did lead me out. But outside was rife with warfare. He had just lost contact with his family. We wandered slums, banding together. That was my happiest period. Though bitter, with him, there was hope. One day, he said he contacted his family, they'd rescue us. But we didn't wait. Bombs struck our slum again. In terrifying gunfire, he protected me tightly. But suddenly, a bullet pierced his head. He fell before me. I desperately covered his head wound, begging him not to leave. With his last breath, he pushed me onto the escape vehicle. Luna, flee quickly. Live on for me. I sobbed uncontrollably. But without you, I can't live. Adrian. I love you. I cried out in the dream. Cool liquid fell on my hand. Someone said, Luna, I love you too. Was it real? So someone in the world loved me too? But the only two who loved me, Mother and Adrian, were gone. Yet unexpectedly, my luck, at its nadir, turned. Upon waking, I discovered my Adrian hadn't died. And he was my legendary comatose husband. Adrian looked pityingly at my scarred hands. After we separated, my family found me. Due to brain injury, I was truly vegetative for 3 years. I awoke recently and planned to announce it, but upon discovering my betrothed was changed to you, I didn't want to. Luna, do you know? Discovering I was marrying you made me so happy. I only regret not waking sooner, letting my girl suffer so much. Tears suddenly fell. So this was how it felt to be cherished. I told him of these years' events and my past with Ethan. Adrian held me tightly, repeating, "It's over, Luna, all over. Those who failed you will meet bad ends. Trust me." Adrian said he'd compensate all I lost. First, a grandest wedding ceremony. We rebooked hotel and gown, everything top tier. He gave me half the company's shares. He said his was mine. My in-laws treated me well. They called me a lucky star. Right after I agreed to the proxy marriage, Adrian awoke. On the wedding day, the southern city's elite all attended. "Cousin, the MC is calling, we'll escort you out." Having severed ties with the Sue family, I had no one to escort me. Cousin Ryan, hearing, hurried over. "Cousin, thank you for that day. No matter the elders, you're always my sister." "Good." Walking from the makeup room, just a few steps, I saw my groom. How fortunate, the final one was him. During the ring exchange, the MC asked, "Mr. Adrian, do you take Ms. Luna as your wife, to accompany her through poverty or wealth for life?" Adrian looked at me resoundingly, "I do." "Ms. Luna, and you?" I gazed back at Adrian's affectionate eyes, nodding, "I also." "No, she doesn't." I turned to see a dust-covered Ethan bursting in. I'd never seen the dignified, reserved him so disheveled, as if rushed from afar, covered in dirt, forehead sweaty. He seemed exhausted, face fatigued. But seeing me, his eyes lit. Then pleading, "Luna, you don't, right?" Though southern and northern cities were distant, circles intersected. Guests soon recognized Ethan. "Isn't that the heir? Why is he here? Is he robbing the wedding? But doesn't he have a fiancée? Seems named Sabrina." Ethan's eyes flashed embarrassment. He anxiously explained, "No, Luna, Sabrina and I had an agreement engagement, she saved my mom, so I helped act the play for 3 years." I shook my head. "It doesn't matter anymore. Ethan, I'm getting married." Ethan's eyes flashed ruthlessness. "Without my consent, who are you marrying?" "Luna, you love me most, have you forgotten?" I tightly held Adrian's hand. "That was before, now, the one I love is Adrian." "Impossible." Ethan said confidently, "Luna, don't deceive me, he's a 3-year comatose man, awake only days. How could you fall for him so quickly?" "Luna, I know you're angry I sent you to Country X, angry I punished you for Sabrina. But those were misunderstandings, I clearly said to send you to Country Y. And Sabrina's matter was just to scare you. It was Sabrina doing it behind my back. I punished her, just now, I sent her to Country X too, whatever sufferings you endured, I guarantee she'll suffer them all, forgive me, okay?" I looked at Ethan amusedly. Could endured wounds be healed with a sorry? Utterly laughable. "I won't forgive, Ethan, you don't deserve it." The words he once gave me, I returned. Ethan bent as if his spine shattered. Pay family bodyguards surrounded. Ethan gazed pleadingly. "Stop fussing, Luna, punish me however, but come home with me first, okay?" I looked at Ethan strangely, unsparingly saying cruel words, "Why should I go home with you? My home is here now. The one to spend life with is Adrian. What's the use of sending Sabrina to Country X? If capable, go yourself. Do you know how I spent the past 3 years? Ethan, with your vast reach, you should know now, I lived worse than death there, even missing a kidney now. All thanks to you. You ask why I love Adrian, because in those 3 years, he saved me from the mire. Without him, I'd have died there long ago. Now, you know why I hate you so and love him so. Want me to continue loving you and go home? Do you deserve it?" With each word, Ethan's face paled further. Finally, he could barely stand. Hearing my sufferings, he knelt, eyes bloodshot. Sorry, Luna. I was wrong. But in the world, not all errors can be apologized away." Adrian glanced contemptuously at Ethan, waved, "Continue the wedding." Ethan wanted to speak, but before he could, Adrian's bodyguards dragged him away. He looked unwillingly, ceaselessly calling my name. But I didn't turn back, just as he had done to me countless times. The day after marriage, I slept until late morning. After Adrian fed me breakfast, he picked up his phone. "He's been outside, want to see him?" The surveillance showed Ethan kneeling outside. I shook my head faintly, "No." His kneeling was worthless, undeserving of my forgiveness. But unexpectedly, Ethan still saw me. The day Adrian and I returned to the old residence for dinner, he went to the company to sign documents first. I went ahead. Unexpectedly en route, several cars surrounded us. Then Ethan opened my car door, eyes manic. "Luna, I finally found you." Ethan took me back to a strange room in the northern city. "Luna, shall we live here from now on?" Incredulously, "You're going to imprison me?" Ethan pained, "Sorry, Luna, I really don't know how to approach you. I'm truly out of ways." I said coldly, "Is this your apology method?" "Indeed, as disgusting as you." As if struck heavily by my words. Ethan curled in pain. "No, Luna. I'm truly here to apologize. I know verbal apologies are worthless. Now, return all the hurts I gave you, okay? Last time, Sabrina falsely relayed my orders, having my people beat you, right? So beat me now, okay?" Ethan placed a whip in my hand. "Beat freely, Luna. I want to hurt more than you." The heavy whip in my hand triggered a response. I knew it was the unhealing wound in my heart. Looking at Ethan, my brow twitched. Yes. Perhaps returning it would suffice. Snap, a lash down. Ethan clenched his hand tightly. So this hurt. He checked the surveillance, 108 lashes. How did his Luna endure? Then the second, third. Ethan trembled in pain but bit his lip silently. Until all 108 ended. Ethan's back was shredded, just like mine that day. He exhaled, smiling at me, "Luna, all returned. Can you forgive me now?" I shook my head. No. Moreover, Ethan, you're truly base. When I loved you, you heeded Sabrina's opinions, casually humiliating and disciplining me. Now I don't love you, you're desperately clinging. What is that if not baseness? Ethan's face paled with my words. Finally unable to hold, he knelt, yet forced a smile. "It's fine, Luna, you can curse me. If you don't forgive now, okay, we have plenty of time later, punish me however." A chill rose in my heart. Ethan, this madman. He truly wanted to imprison me. "Aren't you afraid Adrian will find me?" Ethan looked pathologically, "Not afraid, this is the northern city, they won't find." "Disappointing you, Ethan." As words fell, the door broke open, Adrian appeared before me. "Luna, I'm here." In 5 hours, Adrian found me. I threw myself into his arms, eyes reddening. Ethan looked terrified, begging me not to leave. But I didn't even glance. Or rather, I never wanted to see him again in this life. Adrian fully upgraded my security. He also seized several Hua projects while Ethan was deranged. Adrian said the Hua family was now utterly inferior to the Pei. Henceforth, I needn't worry about Ethan's threats. But Ethan didn't perceive my disgust. He still desperately wanted to do something for forgiveness. Thus, he settled accounts with all who mistreated me, including the Su family and Pearl. On the day the Su family bankrupted, Charles shamelessly called, asking me to aid the maternal home, have Adrian invest, and introduce Pearl to a good match. I sent the severance to the lawyer, said Scram, and blocked them all. Later heard Ethan that madman made them miserable. Charles and the stepmother were left penniless by him, reduced to street sweeping. Pearl, still dreaming of luxury, became a rich old man's fifth mistress. But discovered by the wife, pushed downstairs, paralyzed. Now, Charles and the stepmother not only sweep streets but care for bedridden her. I think their latter lives will be quite eventful. As for me, watching Adrian beside me play piano, glancing at the outdoor sunlight, I think my everyday henceforth will be this eventful.